For years, women around the world have been subject to sexual harassment and assault. Sexual harassment and misconduct is a punishable offense too. But in India, we covered this offense under the mild terminology of eve teasing. Something that is ignored, brushed aside, or even avoided. Something that every woman faces. Almost every woman across the world has been subject to sexual harassment or discrimination in some form or the other. And those who raised their voices were shamed, shushed, and threatened. Not just by the perpetrators. The irony is that most often it was by their own family for fear of being shunned by society. A society that has often judged the victims and ignored the crime. But thanks to the #MeToo movement, victims are now sharing their stories and reshaping the way society discusses and addresses such accusations of sexual assault, harassment, and misconduct. Now, for some of the perpetrators like actor Bill Cosby or Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein, the consequences have been considerable. But that's not really the case when it comes to professional athletes. The truth be told, sexual harassment and assault in the world of sports is really common. Think about it. There are so many athletes who start training at a very young age, away from home. And with no caregivers to really watch out for them, the world of elite athletics is open to instances of sexual abuse. And when it comes to medals and money, sports organizations tend to turn a blind eye to such instances. But not the Women's Tennis Association. Recently, the world witnessed one of the most shocking responses to a Me Too accusation. Fans, sportspersons, the WTA, UN, and the European Union were all asking one question: where is Peng Shuai? Yes, we're talking about the Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai. For those of you who are not aware of this, a former French Open and Wimbledon doubles champion, 35-year-old Peng Shuai is the first Chinese player to attain the #1 rank in either singles or doubles. She is also a 3-time Olympian who has won 25 tour titles over the course of her career. And she has propelled women's tennis to new heights in China. She is all in all a public figure. So what happened? She just disappeared into thin air. What? How? Why? Well, here is the story. On November 2nd, Peng Shuai wrote a rather long post on the Chinese social media platform Weibo, where she spoke about being sexually assaulted. And do you know who assaulted her? China's former vice premier under Xi Jinping, Zhang Gaoli. 75-year-old Zhang Gaoli is one of the most powerful men in China, considering that he served from 2012 to 2017 on China's top ruling body, the Politburo Standing Committee. He was, of course, known for being stern, low-key, and unfriendly. In the post, Peng Shuai wrote that Zhang Gaoli invited her home 3 years ago to play tennis with him and his wife. During that visit, he coerced her into a sexual relationship. In her post, she mentions, "I never gave consent," crying the entire time. This was the first public Me Too accusation against a high-ranking Communist Party official in China, a country where sexual assault against women has been met with censorship and pushback, a country whose authoritarian government has a long record of iron-fisted treatment of people who threaten to undermine the public confidence in the party's senior leaders. Even though Peng Shuai was a popular public figure with 500,000 followers on Chinese social media Weibo, she had accused a former vice premier. So it was no surprise that within minutes of being published, the country's censors got to work meticulously erasing any trace of her accusation. Can you believe it? Searches for tennis, Peng Shuai or Zhang Gaoli were temporarily blocked. Private accounts of those who had shared screenshots of the post were suspended. But what really shook the world was not only did the post disappear, so did Peng Shuai. The censored had cleaned up her social media account so well that it was devoid of any updates or comments, as if absolutely nothing had happened. China, of course, has done this several times in the past. They rely on heavy censorship and a nationalistic narrative from Western supporters to deflect blame for issues including the outbreak of COVID-19 and human rights abuses in Xinjiang. In fact, the censors might have succeeded had Steve Simon, the head of the Women's Tennis Association, not called on Beijing to investigate Ms. Peng's accusations and stop trying to bury her case. He had tried reaching her through various modes of communication but to no avail. At first, China feigned ignorance, saying that they were unaware of any such accusations. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian said that he had not heard of the issue.
还有关于彭帅的问题吗？请你们一并提问。我的答案很简单，这不是外交问题，我也不掌握你提到的有关情况。
Clearly, Beijing planned to maintain silence while waiting for the world to move on. Instead, the world began to take notice of Peng's silence. They realized that something was amiss. By November 14th, that is 12 days after the post, nobody had seen or heard from Peng Shuai. Now come on, someone who had come out to make such a serious allegation would not just disappear from public view. Support and concern for Peng Shuai's safety began to grow, prompting the spread of the hashtag #WhereIsPengShuai across social media. The WTA chief received an email allegedly sent from Peng claiming that the WTA did not get her consent or verification before releasing its statement. It was Peng's first public comment since her allegations. But some, including the WTA, had questions regarding the legitimacy of that email. Now, the Biden administration, the United Nations Human Rights Office, and the European Union began to demand proof of Ms. Peng's well-being. On all international forums, China-backed journalists skirted the allegations made by Peng Shuai and rather focused on making the world believe that she was safe. They were only responding to #WhereIsPengShuai. The editor of a Communist Party-controlled newspaper posted video clips that showed Ms. Peng eating at a restaurant and then attending a tennis event in Beijing. Days later, the International Olympic Committee said that its president had spoken with her in a video call. All of these attempts seemed like there was some major cover-up going on. They failed to quell the rising concern over the safety of women in China. They showed that Peng Shuai was alive, but they failed to prove that she was free. In a statement, the European Union requested a full, fair and transparent investigation into the situation and added it strongly opposes enforced disappearance and arbitrary detention. On December 1st, the Tennis Association announced that it was ending all tournaments in China, including Hong Kong. The WTA cited concerns about Ms. Peng's safety, quoting, "While we know where Peng is, I have serious doubts that she is free, safe, and not subject to censorship, coercion, and intimidation. The WTA has been clear on what is needed here, and we repeat our call for a full and transparent investigation without censorship into Peng Shuai's sexual assault accusation." He further added in a statement that unless China takes steps that we have asked for, we cannot put our players and staff at risk by holding events in China. The head of WTA wrote, "If powerful people can suppress the voices of women and sweep allegations of sexual assault under the rug, then the basis on which the WTA was founded, equality for women, would suffer an immense setback. I will not and cannot let that happen to the WTA and its players." Peng's circumstances may be extreme, but they are by no means unusual. In fact, among the first allegations were those made against US gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar, who was accused of sexually assaulting gymnasts as young as 6 years old. Though nothing was done after the initial allegations came out in 2016, after more than 150 women, including renowned gymnast Simone Biles and former gymnast Aly Raisman, came forward, Nassar was effectively sentenced to life in prison in 2017. 24-year-old Biles is the only victim of Larry Nassar still competing in the US Olympic gymnastics team. She and former teammate Aly Raisman have been actively amplifying their voices and experiences on social media. India has had its share of cases. Most of them get repressed due to fear of retribution, defamation, unacceptance, and the end of their career. Two prominent cases of sexual harassment and abuse of athletes in recent times were in cricket and hockey. In the year 2009, V. Chamundeshwar Nath, the then chairman of the Andhra Cricket Association, was sacked when 9 women from the Andhra women's team alleged that he had sent them lewd texts, called them at odd hours, and sought sexual favors in exchange for being picked in the side. 2 of them went to court against him, but little came of it. Today, he is the vice president of the Telangana Badminton Association. Whereas one of the 2 complainants, Durga Bhavani, who was part of the Andhra women's team, withdrew her case and committed suicide in 2015. A year after the Chamundeshwar Nath controversy, Indian women's hockey coach M.K. Kaushik was accused of sexual misconduct by a player, T.S. Ranjita. Kaushik, a member of the 1980 Olympic gold medal winning side, denied all charges and he stepped down from his position, only to come back 3 years later into the national coaching setup, appointing him senior men's coach. Today he serves as coach at the Madhya Pradesh Hockey Academy. When women speak up about sexual misconduct, they tend to be punished for it. The victims who choose to stand up against sexual harassment are threatened by the perpetrators or pressurized by family, friends, or society to keep mum. And if they don't, they lose their jobs, their career, their friends, social status, reputation, and mental peace. They are interrogated like the accused, made to run from pillar to post to prove their innocence. Unable to handle the injustice, many resort to extreme measures such as committing suicide. Pang Shuai's disappearance is a tight slap on the face of society that lets sexual harassment and its perpetrators go.